Americans are tired of not knowing who their politicians are as people. And we are certainly tired of being fed these same scripted 5-minute sound bites that the mainstream media offers us. We need to get this country on the right track, and we need to do it fast. This is an open platform. You all know that. And I'm inviting any and all presidential candidates a platform to tell their story, tell their views, and spread their word on a platform where a host does not get in the way. I'm your guy. With that being said, welcome Ron DeSantis. Governor DeSantis, thank you for being here today. We got a lot of questions for you. I'm really excited to get going on this.
Great. Shoot.
So I want to talk about your number one thing you want to do if elected president, ending the weaponization of the DOJ and the FBI.
Sure. I think it's an issue that strikes at the heart of a free society and whether constitutional government itself is going to be sustainable. We have three branches of government: legislative, executive, judicial. The founding fathers did not create a fourth branch of government, an unelected bureaucracy that gets to act with impunity against people that it doesn't like. And that nevertheless has developed over many, many years. And I think part of the reasons it's developed is because Congress has neglected its oversight function. They have not used the power of the purse to discipline agencies that abuse its power. And then presidents have indulged in the canard that somehow the DOJ and the FBI are, quote, independent agencies that they can't be involved with. They're not independent. These are agencies that report to the elected president of the United States. When you say an agency is independent, you're saying that it should be unaccountable. Why would you want the agencies that have guns and can put you in jail to be unaccountable? Those are the agencies that are most needed to be held accountable. So we'll come in on day one, new FBI director, cleaning house at the Department of Justice, and that's going to include parceling some of these agencies out into other parts of the country, because I think the accumulation of power in DC has been very, very bad. I think it's politicized the agencies, and I think they've really lost their way to where they represent kind of an elite faction of society, and they give disfavored treatment against people who aren't involved in that aspect of society. But I'm going to be very focused and disciplined in dealing with those agencies, and we are going to make sure we hold them accountable for their conduct. And I guarantee you, you're going to see major, major changes very, very soon. But we can't have this situation where the government is just out of control and we just throw up our hands and say, well, there's nothing we can do about it. They're independent. No, this bureaucracy has imposed its will on us for far too long. When I become president, we are going to impose our will on it.
You know, a lot of Americans they're scared of the DOJ. I have friends that have been through it. The Blackwater guys have been through it. My buddy Eddie Gallagher has been through the weaponized DOJ. And a lot of people are scared to speak truth or speak to their values because of they don't want to wind up on the radar. And what I want to ask you is, you're getting vocal about this already. Are you worried that the FBI or the DOJ is going to interfere in your campaign?
Look, any of that is possible, but I think at the end of the day, a leader's got to lead. I've got to speak the truth, and I got to let people know what I'm going to end up doing. And one of the things I think with folks that have been caught up in this that's important to point out is when they go after you, look, if you're totally innocent, I do have faith in the jury process. You know, they can lose cases. I think the issue, though, is the process itself can be the punishment. Because if they just decide to target somebody, they can bankrupt you. They can ruin your life, even if you end up getting acquitted at a jury trial. Everything that goes into that. And I think there should be some accountability for how those prosecutors are wielding power, especially if they're doing it for political reasons. And what we're supposed to have in this country is, obviously, we want to be tough on crime. We want to deter crime, but crimes happen, right? So you investigate a crime. Most of it's going to be state and local, but there are federal crimes that are created. Okay, investigate, identify who did it, and then you can hold accountable. I think what happens with DOJ and FBI is they identify people they don't like, and then they look for things to be able to try to bring against them. And that is not the way the rule of law is supposed to function.
You talk about revoking security clearances of more than 50 former officials. What officials would be that 50 that fall into that category, those 50?
I think some of them would be the ones that signed that letter during the 2020 election saying that the Hunter Biden laptop was, quote, Russian disinformation. That was a lie. There was no evidence that it was Russian disinformation, and they were playing off their positions with the intel and defense communities to interfere in a presidential election. I think that was dishonorable. I think it was dishonest, and I think you should lose your clearance. I also think that this carousel of people who will serve in like the intel agencies, and then they're on CNN, and then back and forth and laundering information, I think is a big problem. A lot of these agencies aren't doing a good job of keeping secrets, and that's not the way you run a government. So we would absolutely look for people that have behaved inappropriately and yank those clearances.
You know, I wasn't planning on talking about this, but on top of all that, you see active shooter after active shooter and all these mass shootings happening, and time again, the FBI's been tipped off on these guys, and they're not doing anything about it. Do you see yourself forcing them to get more involved with what's going on the home front rather than this rhetoric that we hear every day?
100%. I mean, part of the reason we're doing what we're doing against weaponization is, of course, it's just inappropriate for, say, the FBI to be working with Facebook and Google to censor political speech. It's outrageous. So it's an abuse of power. But it's also just the fact that the opportunity cost of that means you are not putting effort into dealing with these bread and butter offenses. And I absolutely think that they have dropped the ball on those types of cases. And that's where they need to be focusing their efforts. The core mission of federal law enforcement: get out of the politicized topics. Don't worry about things like, quote, misinformation, because basically misinformation with DC elites are just inconvenient truths to their agenda. And those are the people they want to go after. So it'll have, I think, double benefit. One will be people will be freer as a result of railing these guys in. But I do think we'll be able to focus their efforts to things that are really going to matter for keeping people safe and doing it. And I think it's, as much as I hate to think about this, you look at how many millions of people have come across that southern border from all across the world, including Middle Eastern countries. I got to think that, you're going to end up seeing a terrorist attack from somebody that came across that southern border. I don't think you could have that many numbers and not have somebody that has those ill designs. So they need to be focusing on things, the threats to this country, rather than the other things they've been getting involved in.
Well, that's a great segue into what I want to talk about next, which is the southern border. So I've heard you say that you'd like to send U.S. forces into Mexico to combat the drug cartels. How would we do that?
Well, we're going to do a couple things. Day one, we're going to declare a national emergency. That'll allow us to mobilize all available resources at the border, including the military, and we're going to shut down the invasion. We will build a border wall, which I think is necessary, but we're going to reestablish the sovereignty of this country. Now, in the process of doing that, we just have to face the facts that these drug cartels have been exercising more control over our border than our own federal government in many respects. In fact, in some of these areas, Biden has the Border Patrol off the border. They hang out in town and they process illegal entrants. What I saw in Arizona was I actually saw there was a border wall with these steel beams, and the cartels would actually cut through the fortified steel beams, run right through with all the product, and no one would do anything about it. And so when we see things like that, our folks, Border Patrol and or the military, they're going to be authorized to use lethal force. If you take these people out when they're doing that, they are not going to want to move fentanyl into this country if that's the risk. They do it because they don't get any blowback. Now, we're also in a situation where tens of thousands of Americans are dying every year because of the fentanyl that is being brought across the border by the drug cartels. That is massive, massive loss of life. I don't think you can just sit idly by and let that to continue to happen. And so we'll reserve the right to be able to bring direct action as appropriate to these cartels. And I think if you show that you're willing to do that, you are going to create a whole different situation. Right now, they operate with impunity, and Americans are dying, and that's just unacceptable.
Let's talk about the China threat. You consider China to be the number one threat to the United States. There's there you have us on so many different angles. They're coming up through our southern border. They're teaching the cartels how to make fentanyl. They're putting bases up in Cuba, right next to your state in Florida. They own the supply chain. How are we even going to begin to deal with them?
One, recognize that they are infiltrating our society. So do things like we did in Florida. No Confucius Institutes at our universities. No CCP influence, funding research at universities, and no purchase of land. We actually prohibited CCP-related entities and individuals from purchasing land in Florida, not just farmland, any land. I think we need to do that all across the United States. Second, we need to regain our economic independence from China. This whole idea of putting them in the World Trade Organization and granting them most favored nation status many decades ago has been a failure. We were promised that they would end up becoming more democratic and peaceful, and in reality, they were able to build themselves into the dominant manufacturing power in the world. We are now dependent on them for key materials and products that we need to sustain our country. We saw it during COVID with almost everything needing to come from China. We get materials for nuclear weapons from China, for ammunition, all these things that have put us in a very, very vulnerable position. So we need to decouple from China. It's not something you can just do on day one, but we will start. We will identify the key industries, and we are going to build more of that industrial base here in the United States. And then finally, militarily, look, the Chinese, they respect hard power. Particularly hard power in the Indo-Pacific. Japan is building up more. I think Korea, India, I think are going to be with us. I think we have an opportunity to have an American-led coalition of folks that are concerned about the CCP and recognize the threat. But ultimately, the United States is going to have to do more to project power in the Indo-Pacific, particularly with sea power. So that's going to require an investment. But I think we've got to do it. We've got to be able to produce more ships. They're able to produce so many more ships than we're able to right now. You know, we're down under 300 ships. We had almost 600 ships during Reagan's time, and China sees that as a weakness, and that emboldens them to take action. I believe the way you deter conflict with China is to have enough hard power that they make the calculation that it's not worth messing with the United States or our allies. And I don't think we're on that right road now under Biden. We will be when I become president.
Yeah, I don't think we're on any right roads with Biden.
Amen to that.
Yeah, Governor, I really appreciate your time. I do want to say people really want to know who you are. They want to know who the man is, who the governor is. And I would love to get you here. Nobody's going to give you a better interview than I am. I'd love to highlight your military service, what you've gone through with your wife and your family, and your entire governorship. I would love to do it.
But okay, yeah. Well, we should get it done.
Perfect. Well, best of luck to you. I hope to see you again, and I really appreciate your time. Thank you.
All right, Godspeed. Thanks.
You too. Hey everybody, I'm Shawn Ryan. Click here to subscribe to the Shawn Ryan Show YouTube channel for the hottest and most compelling interviews that you will not see anywhere else. I've also made a playlist of all the previous SRS episodes so they're easy to find. You can find that right here.